My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hello there and welcome to This Song Is Yours, a podcast where we dive deep into the world of songwriting and music. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and today our guest on the podcast is London producer, DJ and songwriter Joe Goddard. As an original member of the beloved band Hot Chip, Joe Goddard has been at the forefront of electronic music for years. Now, while still active within Hot Chip, Joe has also been crafting his own solo records, starting with Harvest Festival in 2009 and Electric Lines in 2017. Now, last month, he released his third solo studio album, the beautifully produced Harmonics. This record is a sonic masterpiece with a warm and empathetic tone throughout. It sees Joe collaborating with a diverse array of artists, including Hayden Thorpe, Ibibio Sound Machine, and members of both Jungle and Hot Chip. In today's episode, we're chatting with Joe Goddard about Harmonics and the gentler approach he took when crafting these songs. We discuss working with his Hot Chip bandmates on this record and how he decides whether a song is for his solo project or for the band. We also dive into Joe's journey into music and how he got his start. And if you stick around until the end, you might hear Joe drop a little hint about when we might see him in Australia next. Now, we want to say a massive thank you to Lucy and Tom for their help with today's episode and remind everyone to purchase Harmonics on vinyl. You can also follow Joe and This Song Is Yours across all of their socials. Details for socials and vinyl can be found within today's show notes. Now let's jump into it. Here is our conversation with Joe Goddard. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Joe Goddard. Joe, hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I just got up. Actually, I woke up super early this morning, like 5:30, and I've been working a little bit on a song and, reading. And yeah, it's a nice start to the day for me.
Absolutely love that. Are you someone who, when creativity hits, you kind of have to get up and either jot it down or work on it, or can you kind of retain the idea and kind of go about your day and then work on it when you're able to?
Sometimes I'm able to retain an idea and I try to keep I have a little kind of mental list of musical things that I want to try. And I try to kind of, keep hold of that. But sometimes they elude me, I don't know if you've had other people talk about this, but I get it often if I'm traveling or flying on an airplane. I'll think of a little vocal or a little melody or something like that. And there's something about traveling that makes me come up with stuff. And so I'll sometimes be kind of rushing through the airport trying to sing a little phrase to myself or, hold it in my mind. And sometimes that screws up and I forget it. Other times I try to kind of pull out my phone and record a little voice note. So my phone has a folder of, terrible little mumbled lyrical things or melody things. Yeah. And this morning, I actually kind of waking up from sleep, I came up with an idea for a track that I'm working on at the moment of changing the drums and trying a new bass line. And so, yeah, I got out of bed and I came up to my workroom to kind of have a go at that because I was excited about it.
I absolutely love that. That's fantastic. it is an extremely exciting time for yourself. There's a brand new record out. It is called Harmonics. It's out in the world right now for people to enjoy. How are you feeling with this record finally being out?
I feel really good. I've started doing a kind of solo live show recently, and I found that a very kind of like daunting proposition. You know, I really love the feeling of being on stage with Hot Chip, where there's like 7 of us, and we're all playing our instruments and kind of creating something together. And there's a lovely kind of camaraderie and like creativity and excitement from that. So I was trying to work out a way to do a kind of like solo show that felt creative and felt fun, because it's difficult when you're up there by yourself to manage. Like you've got a lot to think about. There are times when I'm singing, times when I want to play something, and then I'm kind of sequencing the tracks on Ableton and all of this stuff. And you've got a lot of different jobs to do, some of which are like more kind of, administrative, and and then other times you're trying to be creative. So you're balancing a lot. But I've actually been really enjoying it and getting into it. And so yeah, I'm feeling good. It feels good for the record to be out in the world. And, it's a strange feeling because I've been working some of these songs, little bits of vocals and ideas from them I've had since like pre-pandemic times. So it's great for it to all be out in the open now. And it means that I can kind of make space in my brain for like another new musical project. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy. I'm happy that people can hear it now.
It's an absolutely gorgeous record, mate. So congratulations on Harmonics. It's sonically stunning, and the production on this record, I think it's just something really beautiful. There's a sense of lightness to a lot of these songs. There's a sense of when I say carefree, not so much the intention made by yourself and the artists that are making it, but more so like a letting go, like a relief almost, that you can hear sonically in these songs. I read that for this record, there was almost this sense of that you didn't want to push the songwriting too hard, that you kind of wanted a lot of it to kind of be free-flowing, or in terms of what happened organically was kind of what the song was going to be. Are you able to talk us through that a little bit in terms of, how was that for a process?
Yeah, it's something that's been on my mind, because I've been kind of doing this for a pretty long time now, and then in the last like 2-3 years, myself and Al Doyle from Hot Chip and LCD Sound System, we've built a new studio in East London together, and we've had lots of bands and artists come through there, and we've been kind of helping them write and produce their music. And I've just been kind of like watching the way that songs are formed and the way that artists operate in the studio. And I've just kind of noticed that, like, as a producer sitting there in the chair and watching people work, like sometimes songs can be like derailed for the wrong reasons, because, you'll be working on something and something's coming together and it's sounding good. And then someone will kind of throw a spanner in the works because they'll say like, this isn't mainstream enough, or this, like, we need to make the chorus hookier. We need to put the chorus at the start. We need to, I don't know, like polish up the production more. We need to, and those voices, sometimes those voices are valid, and sometimes they're more just kind of out of fear. People say those things, or maybe like an element of ego comes through at that moment, and someone wants to assert themselves on the process and make their mark on the song. And so I just, as a mantra, making this music, tried not to let that voice in as much as, in the past I've been that person. We've been maybe trying to make a Hot Chip song and thinking this needs to be a single, like we need to make this chorus catchier or whatever. That those voices are natural when you're making music, and it's something that's kind of zeitgeisty, like Rick Rubin speaks about this kind of thing a lot. But I've just been trying to be a bit more kind of shut out that ego kind of voice, and be, without sounding too cheesy, kind of listen to what I would intuitively have done as a you know, as a child, or like, you know, just kind of following the original kind of impulse of the song and letting it be what it is. So sometimes that means the songs are a bit more meandering or a bit more unusual, or like sonically it's a little bit more like muddy or kind of less quantized, or all of these kind of things. You know, that was just my kind of, I tried to follow that method as much as I could.
100%. Before, you were just talking about the live show, which is where you're balancing, like you're wearing a number of different hats, not to, with that, and then talking about this new process, does then that make it even more difficult? Say for a previous solo record where there might have been more structure to the songwriting, have you found that then, trying to convert these songs into a live setting has kind of just not necessarily muddied it even more, but I guess that you're working that little bit harder to retain that kind of, that element of it in a thing where you're then trying to recreate it? Yeah.
That I think that's definitely a factor. And then you have this voice when it comes to making the live show. You have this other voice which always comes into play of like, how can I make this track more powerful so that people respond to it more, you know? And we have those conversations with Hot Chip, like how can we make a live version that really makes people dance, or really has moments like hands in the air moments, or, you know, these things that are kind of tropes of dance music. Do we need to do that? Do we need to like reinterpret the song and make it more exciting for a festival audience, you know? So you have all these competing voices, and the thing that kind of slightly fries your brain is like, sometimes that voice telling you to make the track hit harder and make the drop bigger, sometimes that's valid because it's exciting for an audience. And if I go and see a show by a band at a festival, I get swept up in those moments and I love them, you know. And sometimes those voices are not valid, and you need to keep the song kind of fragile and gentle. So it's like there's a lot of decision making constantly, and it's difficult to kind of always make the correct call in all of those situations, you know. It's tiring, but yeah, I guess it's what being when you're a person that's a kind of a producer and an artist simultaneously, you kind of are forced to like make those calls yourself. I guess sometimes if a band goes in with like a name producer, then the producer sometimes takes on that role and tells them when to like punch up a chorus or when not to. But when you're kind of playing both those roles yourself, you have to make those judgments inevitably, like at some point.
100%. I think, to your credit though, with Harmonics, there seems to be a beautiful balance of some really, really strong electronic and dance music, and then you've got some really beautiful, intimate kind of indie electronica on there as well. So I think that in terms of listening to when those instincts are relevant and when they're correct, that you have listened to them, but also when you've also listened to these other instincts as well that have said maybe pull back or maybe do this. I would love to discuss across this record. There's a number of collaborators. I believe you've got Hayden Thorpe. There was Tom from Jungle. There was your Hot Chip bandmates, Al and Alexis. I know I'm missing one or two others. I think Barry.
Yes. Yeah, Barry, yeah.
What's the process for when you have such a varied kind of mix of songs, and again, going across a spectrum of indie electronica and dance music, how do you kind of work out who's the right fit for some of these songs, or who's going to kind of work best on a certain track?
Essentially, like the process that goes on in my mind is I'm probably in this room where I'm sitting right now, which is my little spare bedroom, like computer setup at home. So before I go into the studio in East London, I'll be working on a demo here, and you know the genus of the music is often some drums or some chords, and as the track kind of begins to take shape and it kind of becomes apparent whether it's like a gentle disco track or like a harder housey track, or you know the nature of the song, then I kind of go through that Rolodex or whatever in my head of like people's voices, and think about who I would be excited and you know interested in kind of inviting to add something to that particular demo, you know. So it's a really, really fun process. I love it. It's it's a kind of part of the process that I really enjoy, like imagining someone's contribution and then sending the track off to them. I mean, that's the way it works in some cases. In other cases, like, for instance, there's a song called Miles Away that features Fale Nyoki on the record. And that was always going to be a collaboration with him because he came into the studio and played the kalimba, like some piano, and sang over it. So, you know, that was locked in with him from the start. But where I make a demo and then and I either send it digitally or invite someone into the studio, I go through that process. Yeah.
With collaborating with your Hot Chip band members, is there ever a point where the lines, I guess, are a little bit blurred, where it goes, oh gosh, is this a Joe song or is it a Hot Chip song? What kind of helps differentiate it to the point where you can tell that it is a song for yourself in your solo project?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't like a super clear answer to that. Like in this instance, the song that I've included that features Alexis and Al could have been saved and become a Hot Chip song, but I just kind of had it going. I was really excited about it, maybe like last year or the year before, and I knew that my next project was going to be a solo record, and I didn't want to kind of leave it on a hard drive until, you know, we're talking about a new Hot Chip record at the moment that we might start recording towards the end of this year and early next year, but it won't be released until the year after that, probably. And I didn't want this song to kind of sit there gathering dust until then. And also, you know, I kind of want that to be a blank page, you know, the Hot Chip record. It's exciting to kind of begin that project all together and all getting excited about making a certain kind of music or whatever. You know, we enjoyed doing that on the last album, kind of get together in the studio and jam together and see what happens, you know. So I didn't really want there to be tracks that already existed with a certain sound to kind of color that process. So I wanted to release it on my album kind of for that reason. And then also, I guess if it's going to be for my album, I'm just more involved in the finishing of the song, in the production and the decision making. Whereas if it was a Hot Chip song, we would all be making suggestions about like how the song is finished and the arrangement of it and sonically how it was or whatever. Everyone would be kind of adding instruments and adding their opinions.
100%. Look, I am very glad that these songs have kind of made it onto this record and that we're not waiting, as you said, for another year or two for them to kind of hit the public stratosphere. I was hoping that you might be able to indulge me a little bit and talk about my favourite track on the record. I really loved When Love's Out of Fashion, which features, I do apologise if I'm mispronouncing, is it Orange?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Perfect. When the second synth comes in the verse, I just thought that it expanded the sound out even more. It's a beautiful headphone record. Can you talk us through just that track, I guess, or where that song kind of came from, if possible?
Yeah. I'm pleased that you picked that one. That seems to be one that quite a lot of listeners are picking as something that they love. And it makes me really happy because I don't get to make kind of hip-hop music as often, and it's a very, very dear part of my musical life. And you know, from about the age of like 12 to, I mean, until now really, but when I was a teenager more, it was a real obsession of mine, you know, hip hop and something that I just listened to constantly. So I really, really enjoy like having a go at that from time to time. And what I thought was exciting, I tried to, you know, with the rhythm in the track and the drums and things, I tried to kind of give it the feel of Jay Dilla or, you know, a producer like that. And I love his work. I'm kind of an obsessive, as a lot of people are. I think he's a complete genius. And I'm reading the book Dilla Time about him at the moment and the way that he used rhythm and the way that he produced. So I was trying to kind of do something in the realm of like his work. And then I thought, if I kind of marry that to like a Euro rack, like modular synth, I thought that's an interesting idea, because it's kind of putting two worlds together, two worlds that I love, you know, and I thought that would be an exciting thing. So that's musically, that's where it came from. And then Orange, he's just a friend. He's like the partner of a wonderful woman called Denise, who's like a family friend of ours. And I found out that he was a rapper, and I thought, okay, let's try and collab. And I sent him the beat, and I really, really love what he added to the track. I think it's really emotional and tells a wonderful story, and it's quite a kind of deep, you know, track full of love and emotion. And yeah, I really love the way it came together. You know, I finished it in the studio with Al helping me, mixed it on the desk, this lovely old like 70s Trident desk, and kind of did it quite quickly, and it stayed that way for a while. And yeah, really, really pleased with it. So thank you for highlighting it.
No, of course. It's a gorgeous track. I'm curious, with that in mind, in terms of like reading the Dilla book and having an appreciation for hip hop as well, has there ever been, I guess, a thought of producing for other artists? Obviously, you've got your project, you've got Hot Chip as well. Would you ever look at kind of producing hip hop beats for like smaller R&B or hip hop artists?
Oh yeah, I'd absolutely love to do that. It's such a love of mine, that whole world, and I guess generally it's quite a different world to the one that I inhabit. But I would absolutely love that. We had this funny experience. There's a track by the rapper Ty Dolla $ign, an old track of his that was never released commercially. It's just on a mixtape that he released. So it's in the public domain for free, and he sampled an old Hot Chip song from the first album on it, and he raps over it. And it was such an exciting moment for me to hear that. And I got the chance to kind of be in the room with him one time, like last year, and I mentioned it to him, and he said that he'd just been listening to KCRW radio in LA and heard the Hot Chip track and quickly kind of recorded a little snatch of it and turned it into this beat. And yeah, I mean, it just made me super happy. And I would jump at the chance to do that. Yeah, for sure. I kind of always think about maybe like contacting other artists and rappers, but I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about their response, but I should try harder at it. Yeah.
Look, I think that when was it? A little while ago, we were speaking to someone else about the first Hot Chip record and just how influential that record has been. So I think, look, I think more power to if you do it. I think people will respond very well to it. I know you're talking about putting this band together and the live show together. I might be just trying to manifest like myself, but can we expect these live dates soon? And I guess if so, is there any possibility that we might be able to see the live show from yourself down here in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on that like right now, actually. Like I'm coming back to Australia around New Year's Eve to DJ with Alexis. And I really, really want to try to include a few live dates for that trip. So we're just working out like if the budgets can work and if I can make it happen. But I mean, yeah, I want to, at the moment, I'm kind of feeling really good about playing this show, and I want to play it all around the world. Yeah, I'm trying to work out US dates at the moment. I have a kind of like UK and European tour in November. And then next year, if I can, I would love to do that. Yeah, but there's nothing confirmed at the moment.
Fingers crossed that we get to see it. And again, even just excited to have yourself and the guys down in Australia over New Year's for whatever event that may be. Joe, we would usually ask, I guess, what they're currently listening to. Is there something for yourself at the moment that's on high rotation?
Oh, well, actually, like just this morning, I said I woke up at like 5:30 and I was just reading. I was reading Jason Pierce from Spiritualized talking about an article about his favorite records, and it made me go onto Spotify and start looking through the catalog of Cairo Records, which is like a label that creates compilations of old, mostly kind of US soul music. And I've just been kind of going through all of those compilations, and they're so fantastically good. That's kind of what's on my mind right now. I love 60s US soul, and these are all kind of really deep cuts by like all different artists. So yeah, that's like a recommendation. Yeah.
That's awesome. We'll definitely have to look into that. I think that there's always something really special in the really quality recordings from the 60s and the 70s of soul, because you can hear that there's just like a certain thing in the room or on the track that is got that magic on it. So we'll definitely be looking that up. Joe, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, and congratulations again on Harmonics. It's out now. We'll make sure links are in the podcast show notes for people to purchase the record and follow you across all your socials. But yeah, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, real pleasure. Lovely to speak to you. Thank you.
Never sleep hot again with Bowl and Branch's best-selling naturally cooling sheets. They feel super crisp and cool to the touch and are expertly designed for enhanced breathability so you don't overheat at night. Start getting your best night's sleep this summer with cooling sheets made with the highest quality materials. Try Bowl and Branch with a 30-night worry-free guarantee. Plus, get 15% off and free shipping on your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com with code BUTTERY. Exclusions apply. See site for details.